At Madison Square Garden, the atmosphere was electric. The New York Knicks took the floor with a point to prove, not just to the fans, but to themselves. Facing the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that's become a Western Conference powerhouse, New York showed what it looks like when talent meets togetherness. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. Hours before the opening tip, word spread through the Garden. Anthony Edwards, Minnesota's superstar guard, was back. After missing time, his return added drama and danger. Edwards had been the face of the Timberwolves' resurgence, the vocal leader, the fearless scorer, the heartbeat of a franchise that's made 2 consecutive runs to the Western Conference Finals. But on this night, Edwards' presence wasn't enough. The Knicks, under new head coach Mike Brown, executed their best performance of the young season, overwhelming Minnesota 137-114. It wasn't about one player, it was about a team playing in rhythm, a roster finally clicking under a new philosophy, one that Brown has repeated from day one: everybody eats. For weeks, the Knicks' second unit had been the source of growing frustration. The scoring inconsistency was puzzling, especially after the front office spent the offseason reshaping the bench to prevent exactly that problem. There were legitimate reasons. Josh Hart was adjusting to a new sixth-man role, trying to balance his energy between playmaking and rebounding. New arrivals Jordan Clarkson and Guerschon Yabusele were still finding chemistry and confidence. Injuries and rotations disrupted rhythm. Yet, excuses can only last so long in New York. And against Minnesota, the bench delivered its statement game. Hart played with the intensity that's become his signature, attacking the rim with fearless aggression and finally seeing his jump shot fall. Over his last 3 games, all Knicks victories, Hart has averaged 14.6 points while shooting an efficient 54% from 3. His aggression opened space for teammates like Miles McBride, who played one of his most complete games of the season. McBride's energy was contagious, pressuring the ball, cutting with purpose, and hitting timely shots. His impact earned him the team's symbolic hard hat and Tim's award, a post-game nod to effort and toughness. Even those fighting for minutes responded. Clarkson and Yabusele made smart, efficient use of their time, combining for 5 for 9 shooting and bringing balance to the rotation. Altogether, the Knicks reserves produced 53 points, a total that reflected Mike Brown's vision of a deep, connected roster where production can come from anywhere. For a team built on depth, that's not a luxury, it's a necessity. While the spotlight often falls on the Knicks All-Stars, few players have been more reliable than OG Anunoby. Known for his defensive versatility, Anunoby has quietly become one of New York's most dependable offensive weapons as well. His transformation from a 3-and-D specialist into a confident, multi-level threat has been one of the season's early revelations. Shooting a career-best 41.4% from deep, Anunoby has elevated his game by taking more shots, now averaging over 7 3-point attempts per night. It's a sign of trust, both from himself and from the coaching staff. Some questioned whether this aggressive approach would disrupt his rhythm. Historically, Anunoby was the quiet, steady wing, not the first option, but the reliable one. Against Minnesota, he erased any doubts. He finished with 25 points on 10 of 17 shooting, including 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. He attacked closeouts, ran the floor in transition, and punished defenders who dared to give him space. More importantly, he showed balance, the willingness to mix perimeter shooting with drives into the paint. His performance was a perfect example of controlled confidence, calm, efficient, and deadly precise. In a system built on spacing and ball movement, Anunoby's emergence has become a cornerstone. He doesn't just fit in, he elevates the rhythm of those around him. Then there's Mitchell Robinson, the player whose value can't be measured by the box score alone. His return changed everything. For all the talk about modern offense and floor spacing, Robinson remains one of the league's most dominant interior forces, and against Minnesota, he reminded everyone why. With Karl Anthony Towns back at Madison Square Garden for the first time since joining the Knicks, eyes were on the battle inside. Robinson, however, stole that spotlight quietly but decisively. His final stat line read 8 points and 10 rebounds, modest on paper, but 9 of those boards came on the offensive glass. 9 extra possessions, 9 opportunities created through sheer effort and timing. When Jalen Brunson's shots wouldn't fall, Robinson was there, cleaning up misses and resetting plays. When the Timberwolves tried to collapse the paint, he fought through bodies and stayed alive on every loose ball. His work doesn't always make the highlight reel, but it fuels the Knicks system from the inside out. Without Robinson early in the season, New York struggled to control tempo and second chance opportunities, splitting their first 8 games. But since his return, the Knicks have won 3 straight and now sit at 5-3, a reflection of balance, energy, and health returning at the right time. This win wasn't just another regular season game, it was a statement. It showed that the Knicks can hang with elite competition, that their new system under Mike Brown can translate against playoff-level opponents, and that their identity is becoming clearer by the day. They're not built on one superstar performance or highlight plays. They're built on effort, depth, and execution, the kind of traits that define sustainable success. For the fans inside Madison Square Garden, it was more than a win, it was reassurance. The new-look Knicks are finding their rhythm, and when they play this brand of basketball, it feels like something real is building in New York. Karl Anthony Towns may wear a new jersey now, but the past still follows him every time he steps onto the court against his old team. The New York Knicks star faced the Minnesota Timberwolves at Madison Square Garden, and more than a year after one of the NBA's biggest trades, it's clear he hasn't completely moved on. The matchup carried all the usual hype, a sold-out Garden crowd, 2 Eastern and Western Conference contenders going head-to-head, and plenty of storylines to unpack. But for Towns, this wasn't just another regular season game, it was personal. Traded from Minnesota to New York last October, Towns left behind 9 years of history, a franchise he helped shape, a fan base that embraced him from day one, and a city that watched him grow from a top draft pick into a 4-time All-Star. That kind of bond doesn't disappear easily, and Towns made no effort to hide the emotions still attached to it. I'm still stunned. It's weird, Towns said after the Knicks' commanding 137-114 victory over the Timberwolves. Seeing that Timberwolves jersey, it's always strange. There's a lot of history there. It was the second time Towns had faced his former team since the trade, yet the feelings were as raw as ever. The 7-foot center admitted that while he's starting to feel settled in New York, the emotional connection to Minnesota remains strong. The memories, the friendships, and the years of battles, all of it still lingers. During his post-game comments, Towns almost referred to the Timberwolves as "we," catching himself mid-sentence. "I was about to say we, but they're a really good team. I expect nothing less from them," he said, offering a rare glimpse into just how deeply rooted his connection to that franchise remains. He went on to reflect on what he and the Timberwolves built during his time there, a foundation of competitiveness and culture that's still visible in the team's current success. "It's weird when you see that Timberwolves jersey, especially the 5 black ones that I got, and not being able to see Towns on the back. It's a weird feeling," he said, as quoted by reporter Chris Hine. But emotional as it was, Towns didn't let nostalgia stop him from showing up, literally. The big man woke up under the weather on game day, battling an illness that left his availability uncertain. Still, he pushed through and insisted on playing, refusing to miss what was clearly a meaningful moment in his career. His performance wasn't flashy, but it was steady. 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 31 minutes of effort that helped anchor a Knicks squad firing on all cylinders. After a sluggish first half, New York erupted in the second, outscoring Minnesota 83-56. OG Anunoby led the offensive charge with 25 points, attacking the rim and knocking down key shots. Jalen Brunson orchestrated the offense with poise, finishing with 23 points and 10 assists. Josh Hart brought energy off the bench, adding 18 points and relentless hustle. Towns, even while under the weather, provided inside presence and rebounding stability that allowed New York to control the tempo. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the Knicks had improved to a perfect 5-0 record at Madison Square Garden. For the team, it was another statement win. For Towns, it was something deeper, proof that he can thrive in his new environment, even while the past still tugs at him. The trade that sent Towns to New York last year was one of the most talked about moves of the decade. It signaled a new era for both franchises. Minnesota chose to build around Anthony Edwards, the explosive young guard and now face of the Timberwolves. New York, meanwhile, saw in Towns the skilled big man they had long been missing, a versatile scorer and rebounder who could complement Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby in their push to become a true contender in the East. So far, it's working. Towns has embraced life in New York, adjusting to Mike Brown's system and the intensity of Madison Square Garden. But no matter how far he goes, he carries the Timberwolves with him, a team that drafted him, developed him, and gave him the platform to become the player he is today. His remarks after the game revealed not bitterness, but a kind of bittersweet appreciation. He's proud of what he accomplished in Minnesota and grateful for the memories, but he's also aware that his journey had to evolve. "There's something special about what we built there," he said. I'll always root for those guys. That's never gonna change. Moments like these remind fans that behind the stat lines and trade headlines, there are real human stories of loyalty, transition, and identity. Towns' move from the Midwest to the Mecca of basketball wasn't just a change of address, it was a transformation in every sense. He's now part of a Knicks team that's redefined its culture, playing with purpose, toughness, and chemistry. And while he may still look back from time to time, Towns' focus is clearly forward, toward a franchise hungry for relevance, success, and perhaps a long-awaited championship. Still, when the Timberwolves come to town, the emotions are impossible to ignore. The sight of that familiar jersey, the memories of battles fought and seasons endured, it all floods back. And in those moments, Karl-Anthony Towns isn't just a Knick or a former Timberwolf, he's both. For now, he's doing what every athlete hopes to do after a major transition: honor his past while building his future. The Knicks got the win, Towns got closure, or at least a little closer to it, but the echoes of Minnesota will likely stay with him, a reminder of where it all began. In a potential blockbuster that could send shockwaves across the NBA, a daring trade scenario has emerged. One that would send superstar Anthony Davis to the New York Knicks, while the Dallas Mavericks pivot toward a strategic retool around their younger talent. It's the kind of move that could instantly reshape the balance of power in both conferences. The Mavericks have stumbled out of the gate in the 2025-26 season. Sitting at 2-6, they've battled injuries, uneven rotations, and questions about their roster's overall fit. Anthony Davis, brought in last season to form a frontcourt powerhouse, has been productive but hasn't been able to fully lift the team. Through his first 5 games, he's averaged 20.8 points, 10.2 rebounds, and over a block per game on efficient shooting, but those numbers haven't translated into wins. For Dallas, the early results raise an uncomfortable question: is this current core built to compete, or is it time to reset? On the other side, the New York Knicks are off to a strong but somewhat inconsistent start. At 5-3, they're third in the Eastern Conference, but expectations in New York are always sky high. With a roster now built around Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, and a revamped supporting cast, the Knicks have the talent. Yet, many around the league still question whether they have the superstar edge that championship teams need. That's why the idea of adding Anthony Davis, a generational two-way player, has become so intriguing. Here's the proposed deal being floated. The New York Knicks receive Anthony Davis. The Dallas Mavericks receive OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and a 2026 first-round pick from Washington, top 8 protected. On paper, it's a trade that offers something to both sides. For the Knicks, it's about going all in on a championship window that's wide open but not guaranteed. For the Mavericks, it's about regaining balance, flexibility, and depth while building around Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving, 2 players who represent both the franchise's present and its future. Let's start with New York. Adding Anthony Davis could instantly elevate this team from contender to favorite. The Knicks already possess one of the deepest rotations in the league, but Davis brings something different: star power, versatility, and elite defense. Pairing him with Karl-Anthony Towns would give the Knicks an unstoppable frontcourt combination. Davis's defensive dominance and rebounding next to Towns' perimeter shooting and offensive skill set. Add Mikal Bridges on the wing, and you've got a 3-headed core that checks every box: size, athleticism, and balance. Even though Davis is more of a natural power forward, his success playing at center makes him an ideal fit in today's small ball era. His presence would also allow head coach Mike Brown to experiment with multiple defensive schemes, switching on pick and rolls or dominating the paint with a double big lineup. And even if the trade moves Mitchell Robinson into a more limited role, that's still an advantage. It strengthens New York's bench and gives them more depth in the postseason. For a franchise that hasn't reached the finals in decades, this could be the kind of aggressive move that defines an era. Davis brings not only numbers, but pedigree, a champion, an all-star, and one of the league's most feared interior defenders. If he stays healthy, New York instantly becomes one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NBA. From Dallas's perspective, the logic also holds weight. Trading away a player of Anthony Davis's caliber is never easy, but the Mavericks would get a valuable return. OG Anunoby and Josh Hart are the type of players every winning team needs. Tough, disciplined, and team-first competitors who can contribute on both ends. Anunoby, averaging over 18 points per game on nearly 49% shooting with 41% from 3, would give Dallas much-needed perimeter scoring and defensive length. He can guard multiple positions and stretch the floor alongside Kyrie Irving and Cooper Flagg. Meanwhile, Josh Hart provides the intangibles: energy, rebounding, hustle, and veteran leadership. He's the kind of player who makes winning plays that don't always show up in the box score. The inclusion of a first-round pick adds another layer of value. For a team possibly heading toward a soft rebuild, that draft asset could become critical in adding another young piece or facilitating a future trade. There's also the question of fit. The Mavericks currently have one of the deepest front courts in the league, with Davis, Derek Lively II, Daniel Gafford, and Dwight Powell, but the rotation has looked crowded and inconsistent. Trading Davis would open up more opportunities for Lively to develop and for Gafford to take on a larger role. It would also simplify the team's structure around its dynamic guards. However, moving on from Anthony Davis is easier said than done. Despite his injury history, Davis remains one of the most impactful players in basketball. His defensive presence, rebounding, and ability to score efficiently still make him an elite big man when healthy. He changes games simply by being on the floor. And with Kyrie Irving close to returning, Dallas might want to see what its full roster looks like before committing to a major move. There's optimism inside the organization that the trio of Davis, Irving, and rookie sensation Cooper Flagg can still turn things around once everyone is fully integrated. But if the struggles continue and the Mavericks remain near the bottom of the Western Conference standings, the pressure to act will grow. Teams around the league are always looking for a chance to acquire a star, and New York, hungry, aggressive, and desperate for a championship breakthrough, could be the first in line. At the end of the day, this hypothetical trade embodies what makes the NBA so fascinating: risk, ambition, and the constant search for the next big move. For the Knicks, it's a chance to finally build a super team capable of conquering the East. For the Mavericks, it's a path towards sustainability and balance after a rocky start. If it ever happens, it won't just be another transaction. It would be a league-altering deal that reshapes the future of two franchises overnight.